Hey, hi, my name is Flask, and I'm a volunteer with the Girl Scouts of the Green and White Mountains, serving Girl Scouts in Vermont and New Hampshire. A couple of days ago, I was out here with my friend Barb, and we were filming some video about how to stay insulated while you're winter hammocking. And due to technical difficulties, we lost that introductory footage. So, I have to say hey, hi all by myself, and I didn't want you to get all confused when suddenly Barb was in the picture. So let's go. So Barb is in her Hammock Gear Wanderlust hammock. It's a 3-season hammock. There's no quilt underneath it. It's just, you can see it's a hammock and a bug net. It's a built-in bug net. And one of the things that happens with hammocks is that if it's not 70 degrees out, you're going to get cold on your butt because of a thing called convection cooling. If you were sitting on the snow, you'd get conduction cooling. But if cold air is going by your butt, you're getting convection cooling. How's your butt, Barb?
Cold.
Okay, let's see if we can do something about it. So Barb's taking a standard camping pad and she's putting it in her hammock bed. It's 21 degrees outside, and she's now going to sit on that pad. Slip her shoes off, and she's going to lay back in a hammock. Are you comfortable, Barb?
It's okay. The pad kind of moves around and gets in the way.
Is it better than no pad?
It's better than no pad, yeah.
Is it good?
It's fair.
Okay, so let's try something else.
Okay.
Barb's putting her Hammock Gear incubator underquilt under her hammock. And that's what's going to keep her warm. Because in a hammock, when you're lying on any surface with insulation, that insulation will get compressed by the weight of your body. But if the insulation is hanging underneath the bed of the hammock, you're going to get all that toastiness. So she's going to make sure that her hammock is inside the quilt, and then she's going to get in. How's that? Is that better?
It is better.
Okay, I'm going to go get your top quilt. Okay, so now we've got Barb set up with both her Hammock Gear 20 degree under quilt and her over quilt, which has a little snap at the back, so she can pull that tight around her head. And with a nice warm hat, she can lie there. And that bug net isn't going to give her an awful lot of heat, but it will keep some of the breezes off of her. And we're just going to move her quilt so it goes under her feet. All right, so these quilts are rated for 20 degrees, and what that means is that this company says that an average person should be comfortable at 20 degrees in these quilts. But every person is not the same person. So I know that I sleep cold, and I know Barb sleeps a little cold. So if it's 20 degrees, we'll feel chilly. If it's warmer than that, we'll feel just fine. So if you're a cold sleeper and your stuff is rated for 20 degrees, you're probably only going to be comfortable down to 25. Barb's wiggling her toes in here because she's got a little toe vent. She's pulled it closed, but not all the way closed. All right, so here's a pretty simple thing you can do to increase the warmth in a hammock. It won't increase the warmth underneath you, but it will help you keep some of the warm air in, and it'll keep the breezes off of you and keep you from getting cold that way. You can just put a blanket over the top of it. And if it's windy, or if you rock around a lot at night, or the blanket's slippery, you can even clip it to your underquilt, or you can clip it if you're really careful, you can clip it to itself underneath, and it'll stay in place. In a couple minutes, we're going to ask Barb to check the temperatures in there. How does it feel?
Feels good. That's feel warmer.
All right, so what's the temperature outside your blanket? She's got a thermometer on top of her quilt, and she's got a thermometer underneath her quilt. Okay, so another thing that you can do to keep this warm is you can put a sock on it, which is just, it's a piece of fabric. It's a tube that goes all the way around the hammock, and it's got some mesh there at the end so you can have a window. And Barb can use the drawstring at that end to close it. And that just, it will keep the wind out of her hammock, and it will just keep in a little bit more heat. So why don't you go ahead, come around, unzip the bottom, and get on in. Okay, so now we have Barb in there with her 20-degree quilts, and she's got a blanket over the top, and she's got a sock around the whole thing. And we're waiting on the thermometer to register the temperatures in there. But I don't know if you see this, how it looks, how she's really tilted upside down. But Barb, can you wave over your head? So there's Barb's head. And can you poke your foot out? So her foot is over there. So she's actually lying pretty level, and it's just how hammocks work. Your foot end is always a little higher than your head end. So here I have some HVAC insulation. It goes for about $20 a roll at the hardware store, and I cut it up and taped it together so that it would fit underneath a hammock. And I'm going to try to jam it in underneath where Barb is. So I'm going to have to do a little unzipping of her, and I'm going to jam that thing, and she's just going to lie there and be comfortable. She gets the good jobs. Okay, so now I've opened up the sock, and I've put this silver HVAC insulation inside underneath. It goes underneath Barb's quilt, between the sock and her quilt. I'm zipping her right up. And that will reflect some of her body heat back toward her, and also keep some of the warmth in and prevent the ground cold from reaching her. Right, so for just a little show and tell, we have 3 different quilts. They're all from the same company. It's all the same model of quilt. These are all Hammock Gear burrows. But this one is a 40-degree burrow. And you can see how kind of thin it is. And then this is Barb's 20-degree burrow. You can see how much thicker. She has more down in it. And this is my 0-degree burrow. And this bad boy puffs way up and will keep me warm on really cold nights. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Okay, so now we have Barb in a different hammock. This is my War Bonnet Blackbird XLC, which has a little bit of a different construction. It's got a foot box over here for her foot. It's very roomy inside, and it has this storage pocket here, which can be tied out like a shelf. And you probably noticed that there's no bug net. I have a bug net that goes with this hammock, but this is a winter cover, so this does what the sock did. And she's in here with a 0-degree underquilt and a 0-degree top quilt. And how do you feel, Barb?
Warm. I'm actually sweating.
So one time for my coldest night out, I slept in this hammock, but I used the sock that we saw on the other hammock. I used the sock, and I used the silver insulation as well, and I put a blanket over the top because that night was 15 below zero. And I would not have done that on purpose, but that was a night my Girl Scout troop was camping at Camp Twin Hills, and they were in the pixie cabin with a wood stove. So I felt that I would be safe to put my hammock just outside and test that configuration. So I know it's good down to that cold. And if I got cold and wanted to go inside, I had a nice safe place to go into. So that was a good way to do it. And I'm not going to make Barb take on all the extra insulation because it's only 20 degrees out in the driveway and she's already too hot. Okay, tell me the outside thermometer.
47.1.
Okay. And the one inside?
66.
66 degrees, and she'd probably rather not lay there and sweat, so we're not going to make her heat it up all the way. But that's how to stay safe and warm while you're hammocking in the winter. So that's it from us, and I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something about how to insulate yourself while winter hammocking, and I hope you get a chance to go out and try it sometime. I'll talk to you later.